can't find a secondary issue with our proposals, but I don't care. I don't need a secondary. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get online, and kiss my ass.
I'm Harry Steele. You found the Heart of Dixie podcast. I'm joined today by Brandon Mosley, who is a reporter and content manager at the Alabama Gazette. How are you, Mr. Mosley?
I'm doing fine for y'all.
Well, I didn't quite catch that, but are you strangling the cat?
No, if he's...
No, there it is now. Okay, it all sounds good. We're going to have some gremlins on this first one.
Different language.
And Stephen Coker, computer forensics expert, is here with us in studio. And hopefully we're going to give you guys your money's worth today. So this is a new podcast. This is episode number 1. And I thought we would start off by doing a little different format from our last podcast and talk about our topics of discussion to begin with. So we're going to talk about the Alabama legislature being in session, bad bills, that State of the Union, because there's only one we could be talking about this week. The fact that law enforcement planted evidence, according to Mr. Coker, and
Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yes, and then we have rapid fire. We've got a couple of different topics that we just want to cover for posterity's sake. So, Brandon, John Wall, the man who is part of some weird religious cult and grows butterflies for a living. I shit you not. That is this man's job.
Somebody has to do it.
He grows butterflies like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, and he is the chairman of the Alabama Republican Party for another year.
I don't think I know.
So we recently reelected him to a third term.
Term number 3. And Secretary of State Wes Allen announces his run for lieutenant governor. Him and his lovely
Wes is
family.
moving from Secretary of State to lieutenant governor, he hopes. And shortly after that, Andrew Sorrell, the state auditor, announced he is running for lieutenant governor. No, he's running for Secretary of State. I get it right.
There you go. Okay, so this is my legislative update that I got from the Alabama State Bar today, and they say to date, 13 legislative days have been completed with 231 bills introduced in the Senate and 398 bills introduced in the House of Representatives. Now, just how many of those do you think we're going to make you sit through and tell you all about? Not very many. The ones important to, of course, if you want to read on through this, various criminal justice bills are under consideration. That's all that they give it lip service for. So, Alabama senator introduces a ban on intoxicating hemp products. I thought that was pretty funny, because I found this online, the Alabama State University, with leading industry-leading experts in cutting-edge content. You'll be complete with your degree and ready to hit the ground running to make real impact in the world of cannabis. Although we're going to ban it all here. We got one of our state universities.
Well, it's another one of those college majors where you can study it, you can get a degree in it, but if you really want to work in it, you got to go to another state. Is
okay.
If this legislation that Milson has introduced actually passes.
That makes sense.
I've got my doubts on that one. But most states allow you to sell, cannabinoids that are derived from, hemp. Alabama, according to Milson, has a problem with people, getting overindulging in the Delta 8 and other psychoactive hemp products. See what you can do. A lot of people use the CBD, but if you take the CBD and you distill it, you can pull Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, Delta 12. Obviously, Delta 9 is illegal because that's the main cannabinoid in marijuana. But then that makes it a legal product, which you can put in gummies, candies, tinctures, lotions, hair products, whatever you want to try to get
blowguns.
Yeah,
syringes.
I mean, normally Delta 8's about 1/4 the potency of regular marijuana. The only problem really with this is that if you take 4 of them, you get the same buzz as marijuana. Theoretically, I would not risk that with my health, but
Yeah, I don't think it's risky at all. So, anyway, along with them wanting to ban CBD
I'm not a big fan of
products,
alcohol either.
well, along with them wanting to ban CBD products in 2021, we created the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission. They've been unable to issue a license because of all the lawsuits that have proliferated because of their methodology. And so Senator Melson introduced a bill that would rewrite the whole damn thing. And there were you there, Brandon? It says in a public hearing, every speaker objected to Senate Bill 72.
Getting in that room was pretty difficult.
So
I was not in the room, but I have seen the video.
Well,
we actually have an article up on it by Shay Garrigan on the website where she summarizes what happened. Most of the people that spoke were opposed. Anybody who was awarded a license the last time the commission gave licenses back in December of 2023, they would have their license voided by Melson's bill, and then we would do a do-over. The Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission, which Melson's previous bill created, would lose the power to make the decision, and instead other agency heads would choose a consultant who would make the decisions for the state rather than the regulatory board that we created. And I think, there's 2 different versions of this bill that Melson's floating around. I think the most recent one raises it to either 8 or 10 vertically integrated licenses. The bill that's on the books limits it to 5, but that means when 36 applied, that means 31 sued when they didn't get the license.
Okay, but
so that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, but there's Harry's perspective, which this whole thing was sold to us as a compassion bill because all these people are having seizures and stuff, and we can help them not have seizures, right? Or they have MS, and this is something that can help them. So,
they got cancer, and this marijuana would help them hold their food down.
This is
so
all
they can
by
survive the chemo.
Okay. Well, this whole cluster that this thing has all been by design. They were never supposed to issue a license, and I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know why we're still talking about it because I don't believe they will ever get their act together. And so, Brandon,
if we pass Melson's bill, it would be 2026 at the earliest before any legal medical cannabis is sold, because we'd have to do the whole process over again. Though now the appeals court has lifted the temporary restraining order here just this week on the that's kept the commission from issuing licenses. So we'll see how the commission responds. Of course, then the commission's watching to see what the legislature does, but
yeah.
I don't know what's going on in James Anderson's court, but it's been there for 3 years now. And the court never does actually rule on anything. It just blocks everybody from doing anything. And, we're going to have mandatory mediation. I mean, you can mediate all you want to. 36 people cannot get 5 licenses. And, there's no way you can do that where 31 of them are going to be happy with the result.
I mean, I went to school in Alabama, but they taught us how to count with our foot like a horse, right?
It's funny because I was throughout all that, I was thinking about 1994. I was going to Alabama. A friend of mine was going to Tulane. Went to Tulane. This is how the differences between New Orleans, I guess, and Tuscaloosa. I went there. He's like, "Help me out! I'm moving out of this apartment into another one. And I go in there, I had no idea. He says, go look in there. We got to get those out. He had a whole bedroom that was full of plants. And this is on Tulane campus. Okay. And he had to throw it. I was like, what are you doing? Are you going to throw them away? And it was like, he was explaining to everybody in the building had plants in their closets.
It was a different time, you understand.
Yeah.
1991 or 92.
The Tuscaloosa students, they had to
Yeah,
drive
do
all
not
the way to
attempt this
Florida.
at home in Alabama, or the Sheriff's Drug Task
like,
Force will be kicking
Why
in
don't
your
you
door.
just leave it for the next guy?
Yeah, there's way too many cops now for you to do this, kids. Okay, so let's talk about the governor's package. Governor Ivey officially launches Back the Blue package. So let's talk about all the Back the Blue stuff. Back the Blue Legal Protection Act. Now that passed, right? That's out of committee?
That has passed on the floor of the House as of yesterday. That's like the next article I need to write.
A law enforcement officer would be immune from prosecution for on-the-job use of force unless his or her conduct violates a person's constitutional rights.
Or was reckless, or was outside the scope of his professional duties.
In other words, if he has a badge on and he's on the clock, he can kill you, and your family can't sue the state of Alabama or the city of or the county of or the.
If he's attempting to do police sort of things and he kills you, he's good. If he was reckless in what he did, or what he did was, he was fighting you for, over a girlfriend or something, where that would be outside of the scope of his duties, and you got killed, then he's on his own.
Yeah, but you
as
have to,
long as he can show that
it's dispositive, though.
what he did.
It's
Yeah, but
dispositive.
this is
The
beyond.
presumption is
You already have immunity for self-defense. You or I have that,
right.
And the law enforcement has that too. This is beyond that, and before a prosecutor could prosecute a police officer, you'd have to hold a hearing, and the judge would rule in the hearing whether or not the officer acted outside recklessly or outside the scope of his professional duties. If the judge finds that it wasn't reckless and it wasn't outside the scope of his duties, the prosecution would end.
Okay, but it's not just prosecution. It's also civil matters.
There's also civil immunity in there too. If we're doing two things with one bill, I think this would have been much simpler with two bills. But it makes it much harder to sue a police officer if you claim, hey, I was brutalized, when they put me in the police car.
Yeah. And the presumption is that you have to prove that they acted outside the scope of their job and violated your constitutional protected rights and all that.
Yeah, and it's like Representative Chris England brought up, is that not even if the judge rules that he thought it was outside the scope of his duty and or reckless, that defense attorney is going to bring that up as a defense in any trial that comes in there, and the jury may be in a position where they have to determine if this was inside or outside an law officer's professional scope of duties.
Okay, well let's talk about the three cases that we know about right now, and there's a big one right now going on in Decatur, and Brandon and I have seen the video together. They went to a guy's house.
This bill is not retroactive to any existing cases.
Who is behind this bill? Who is the person?
The Sheriff's Association.
Okay.
They've been wanting this immunity for quite some time.
One or two people that are really behind the passage bill. Who's that?
Couldn't say.
Politicians.
Well, so let's keep going. So the next pearl in the chain in the string is the Law Enforcement Dependent Scholarship. This bill would establish a law enforcement officer's family scholarship program designed to boost recruitment and retention of law enforcement by providing financial assistance for college tuition and associated expenses for long-serving law
Yeah, that
enforcement
passed out of
officers.
the House last week with bipartisan support. There's virtually no opposition.
I'm just telling. If all this stuff passes, I'm going to get me a badge because there's a new class of citizen in Alabama, and it's called law enforcement, where you can do whatever you want. And
well, we have
luck.
a shortage of police officers, so we're trying to do whatever we can do to recruit new ones.
Okay, this bill would broaden the existing crime of impersonating a police officer.
Yeah, that also passed out of the House yesterday.
So, like, if you're that we had a state trooper last year who was convicted of raping a 9-year-old girl, and somehow APOS missed that he was an FBI agent who got fired for raping another FBI agent at knife point. So we need to put some penalties on the people, not the people responsible.
What this does is there are some like rural municipalities that hire like the mayor's cousin Earl to be a police officer, even though he's not APOS certified. If they do that under this legislation, yeah, there's penalties on both the officer who's not certified and the municipality who hired a non-certified person to be a police officer. You got to get APOS certified.
And trust me, that's like all you got to be able to do is write and lick a stamp, and you can get APOS certified. Okay.
Well, I mean, there are situations where people have badges that are not, and this is to crack down on that.
Yeah, but if you're a FBI agent accused of rape, you can get a job as a state trooper and then continue to rape other people.
With no probable
Yeah.
But now in that case, APOS certified him. That was APOS' fault.
I know. But now instead of penalizing APOS, we're going to make the penalty on the person that is committing your crime anyway. Anyhow, it's nonsensical to me. So the Interstate Gun Violence Act, felons in possession of a firearm. This bill would expand the current term certain persons forbidden law to include individuals with any prior felony convictions unless they've had their gun rights restored by a pardon. It talks about pretrial detention, certain penalties for shooting into an occupied dwelling, parole and probation revocations. This thing is pretty substantial, and
if you value your gun rights at all,
wow.
Do not get sideways with the law and then accept some sort of plea agreement, because even though you may never serve a day in jail, you probably just lost your gun rights in my reading of this bill if this becomes law.
You would no longer be subject
already
to a
this expands it beyond the federal definition.
Here's my first thought. Here's the biggest problem. Okay, I've done 12 cases involving dash cam DVRs or the micro SD, body cam. Every time, every one of those 12 cases deleted the most important clip. Always, it's deleted.
What is it?
It's usually the most important clip. It could be, it's usually the shooting or when whatever went down. If it's a car, it just depends.
I get it.
Yeah, if you show the body cam footage, but instead of showing it from the beginning where the police car officer pulls over the guy and gets out of the car, if you just go to the worst moments where they're in fisticuffs and then the officer ultimately has to kill the person, you're maybe leaving out some information as to what got us to that.
Well,
very tragic.
All right, I'm just going to pull one out. He was there late night, 1 a.m. at a corner or an intersection hiding, for tickets, whatever. And just before the event happened, it was 20 minutes before the event that happened, he turned his dash cam towards the back seat. Okay. So all you'd see is the seat with a gun. And then he pulled out and rammed somebody and killed him in his vehicle. Okay. No footage for any of that.
Well, that means there's no evidence and nothing to worry about. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, in a lot of new police cars now that we're, the dash cam footage is getting to be in there. When the moment they cut those blue lights on, the dash cam cuts off.
What's strange about that is
that's kind of what we need to have more standard.
It's a mounted camera,
but that's the newer.
Turn it around like that.
Yeah, that's.
It almost suggested he knew what was
premeditated.
happening. Yeah, is what I'm
It
saying.
wasn't his ex-wife he rammed, was it? So let's talk about these other bills. The Nyes Law Enhancement Constitutional Amendment. This would amend the Constitution to align the changes being made in the Nyes Law Violence Act. Metro Crime Suppression Budget Proposal. Governor Ivey would include $3 million in recurring appropriations supporting a permanent 24-man crime suppression unit. The Glock switch ban. So now in Alabama, it's illegal to possess a piece of plastic that you could put into a firearm and make it go boom more than once with a trigger pull.
Now when they passed the Glock switch ban out of the House yesterday, it was amended by Representative Stringer to mirror the federal language. The original version that passed out of the Senate somehow was broader than what the federal law says. But now with the changes the House made yesterday, it now mirrors the language in the federal deal. So Glock switches that are already illegal federally, and, the FBI can, choose to prosecute you for. Now your local sheriff and, your DA and the state of Alabama can also prosecute you. It's either or.
Yeah, and somebody could say, I saw some pieces of plastic in Harry's workshop, and now they can get a warrant and come kick my door down because there's plastic shavings where I was making a model airplane, on my back porch. Or whatever. Brandon, I can take, look,
manufacturer of
I can take the end of this ballpoint.
It's put in a gun is now illegal.
Okay, I can take this piece of this pen with an X-Acto knife and a big lighter, and I can make something that I can slam into the sear of this gun right here, so that when I pull the trigger, it empties the whole gun. Right? Okay. There's no. It doesn't turn into an automatic weapon. It means when I pull the trigger, it goes. Everything's gone. I can't stop it once it starts.
We're just giving yet another new business to the cartels that already sell us our marijuana,
and quite frankly,
our drugs, our illegal guns.
Okay, but
our illegal labor.
But what the ATF is trying to do here, tracking every manufactured firearm down to the owner and keeping a database and all this stuff, it's foolish. Now that you can print a gun, what in the hell are we doing here? Anyway, I have a philosophical difference with many people about what the Constitution actually means, and I think if you're Bill Gates and you're a law-abiding citizen and you can afford an M1 Abrams tank, you ought to be able to go buy one. Sorry, that's just what I think.
Historically, the right to bear arms is interpreted as small arms that you or I can carry.
Yeah, sounds real good to the guys in charge now. Wouldn't it sound real good during the Revolution? Would it? You can't have nothing but a squirrel. All you guys can have slingshots and bows and arrows because that's all we had prior to gunpowder being invented. All this is
all arms.
This is all about controlling the public.
Other than we have the Firearms Control Act of, I think, 1932 banned, the assault weapons, or the automatic rifles that you would actually use in combat. So,
okay, well, the idea that you have to have 130 IQ,
but it's been upheld for like 80 years.
The idea that you have to have 130 IQ to understand the tax code and the gun laws in this country is really kind of scary. And it's just another way that we can make anybody a criminal when we decide it's time to lock their ass up. And we're about to get into some more of that stuff here in a minute. All right, so let's move on to the Juvenile Accountability and Monitoring Act. We're going to slap
It's not good to be a teenager now.
So anyway, God forbid you know, went on a joyride during recess at high school, because now you're going to be on an electric ankle monitor for the rest of your damn life.
If you're a juvenile and your butt should be in school, and the truant officer catches you out of school, under this law, in my understanding, they can ankle monitor your butt from now.
And mommy and daddy get to pay for it.
I don't know how. I mean, it's usually awkward for a teenager to go to his girlfriend's house and say, "Hello, I'm dating your daughter." That's probably doubly awkward if you're wearing an ankle monitor when you're doing.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have led with that when going through the door. So House Committee advances police officer immunity. That's Brandon's article from February 7th.
That's passed the House now.
All right.
Yesterday.
So England said SB 220 would mean that to prosecute a police officer, the prosecution would have to prove at a hearing that it was action taken within the discretionary authority of the law enforcement officer. Yeah. So anyway, we don't necessarily like England, but he might have something on this one. So Glock switch ban gets favorable report from Senate committee. We kicked that one to death.
It's actually passed both houses now.
And so this is a picture of the two people that we will probably be going after, Mr. Barfoot. You know,
got a Republican,
these Republicans
sponsoring it in the Senate, and a Democrat carrying it in the House.
Yeah, very, very interesting when these strange bills.
Very bipartisan. It's part of the governor's fighting crime package he talked about in the state of the state.
So, under the current constitutional carry bill, you have a duty to inform a law enforcement officer when requested if you're in possession of a concealed pistol or firearm. There is no penalty under the criminal code, so they had discussed changing the law and making it. Was it going to be a felony?
Yes, Christopher England introduced legislation where I think it was going to either be a Class D felony or a Class A misdemeanor. Big difference there on whether you lose your gun rights because you lied about it or not.
No kidding.
But now that went into the House Judiciary Committee, and in the House Judiciary Committee, the Republicans substituted England's bill with a bill that, if passed, would eliminate this language out of the code.
So it's not going. It's not going to happen.
You can essentially lie to the police officer about whether you have a gun or not, and you're good. You have no authority. Have no presumption of the law that you have to tell. But now I don't know how that's going to go in the House because England opposed substituting his bill. So I'm doubting he's pushing for his bill as substituted to pass the House.
And I got to watch this in the bar, and then I got to go back and watch it again in the room, all the highlights and everything. So I don't know, man. The White House, of course, says President Trump's masterclass before Congress. That's what that speech was. It was a masterclass on how to communicate.
I've never seen anything like it. He's talking about a kid and presenting a kid that was supposed to be dead years ago, healed from brain cancer. They don't even stand up. They don't clap. They hold a little paddle up.
Yeah, like I said, the whole thing is just an exercise, and I don't know what.
Yeah, it was disgraceful.
So
the Democrats, in their effort to disrupt the president, ended up looking like fools. It just is like.
Well,
As a Republican, I kind of thought Marjorie Taylor Greene and her MAGA hat and her balloons was an embarrassment to the country, and I kind of like Marjorie Taylor Greene, as a person. What the Democrats tried to do to Trump was in that same vein, and it just came across really, it wasn't funny, it was just petty.
agreed. So let's talk about some substance. We know that the tariffs are in place. We talked about eggs. Did everybody catch the egg? Joe Biden's let the eggs get out of control. And let's see here. Little Marco, he has sent. He said if Greenland would like to become part of the United States, there's the is Denmark a constitutional monarchy? Aren't all these Sweden and all them, they all got kings and queens?
Yeah, they've got a king with no power that hangs out.
But anyway,
if you're really social in Denmark, you get to go visit the king.
All right. Well, anyhow.
Why Denmark rules Greenland, I can't figure out, but we just sort of allow it.
Something to do with the Vikings. I think they had outposts.
Yeah, I mean, Leif Erikson went to Iceland, went to Greenland. I mean, all the little guys from Leif Erikson's party that colonized Greenland died in the Little Ice Age, but we don't worry about that.
So I don't know if everybody thought it was a poignant moment like I did, but when Trump introduced, everyone looking up and to their left at Elon Musk in the gallery above, running our Doge. And, of course, a lot of that, there's no way that there's 30,000 people over 100 years old still getting Social Security. I think we're going to find
the Doge in
sure
just like
there's
40
wasting.
days is identified, according to them, $100 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse.
Well,
that's probably the tip of the iceberg.
They haven't reported yet what's been found in NSA, and it's not good.
Okay, but when you're Tom Cotton and you go out there and you say Doge has found X, Y, and Z, and I'm sitting there going, well, asshole, you've been on the Senate Armed Services Committee for 22 years. It was your only job was to provide oversight. What the hell are you? They're sitting there with the house on fire that they were playing with matches 30 minutes ago, and now the house is on fire. And it's somebody else's fault.
That's the biggest thing the Doge has revealed is that Congress at some point stopped doing its job.
Thank you, Brandon.
It's supposed to oversee these executive agencies it creates.
He had a large group of transgenders that were blocking any access to any information. I mean, if you've been listening to like what Tulsi Gabbard's been saying, I mean, the people that were running the NSA, it's
okay. Well, I'm sure with the right people in place, we'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
But why didn't we get to the bottom of it when we were in charge in 2016? Anyway,
I kind of think Trump did the presidency for 4 years and had the benefit of not being president for 4 years and was able to look back on mistakes he made. It's like a lot of stuff went on and, the agencies just let it go on. And this time we're doing things differently. For better or for worse.
Okay, so Kash Patel is our new FBI director, and I don't know why I wasn't considered. I've been doing a podcast for 5 years. Dan Bongino is the assistant director of the FBI. And it says here that Kash Patel plans to relocate 500 FBI managers to Huntsville, Alabama. And I can just tell you, we don't want them here either, Kash.
Tommy Tuberville and Katie Britt have been lobbying for Kash to move 1,000 more FBI personnel to the FBI sprawling new campus out there at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville.
There's got to be 10,000 employees in that FBI field office. And
there's 30,000.
I've been there a few times.
30,000.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 3 times.
I mean, I calculated it up earlier, and we could divide America into little territories of like 12,000 people, and every one of us be assigned our own FBI agent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and, he could go
it's
door to door
ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it's time for there to be some trimming of the fat. And like I said, I'm walking into Lauderdale County Courthouse the other day, and usually they see you're an attorney and they go, come on through, or you got a badge, an ID of some sort, and come on through. Oh no, had to take my boots, belt, tie, and as I'm standing there after the strip search and redressing and everything, my clients are stymied waiting on me, and they come over and they say, is everything okay here? I mean, what's going on? And I said, one day when I'm in charge, spotting a like when somebody sees a sheriff's deputy, they'll post it to Twitter because it'd be like seeing a damn Sasquatch. If you see a sheriff's deputy, that means there's a body in pieces somewhere that needs to be attended to or whatever.
The FBI is beyond.
We got so many. We got 4 at the freaking front door of every courthouse in Alabama. That is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, there's 30,000 FBI agents on top of all the local law enforcement, the federal marshals, the ATF, the DEA, ICE, the Border Patrol,
Homeland Security,
Bureau of Investigation, the conservation officers, and then we have 30,000 FBI agents. I mean, it's...
And that one campus, I'll bet you have 1,000 IT people, applications developers to, tweak those open source tools that create fake evidence.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. That's just what we need.
Development staffing to do that.
All right. So let's talk about Mark Samuel Baker. So he's a former police officer in Winchester, Virginia. He's working for FEMA. He's in Billings, Montana. And here is his criminal text case, U.S. v. Baker, CR 2022. And this was in... I guess he was finally convicted in 2024.
Billings, Montana.
Billings, Montana. Attempted sex traffic of a minor in Billings sends Virginia man to prison for 10 years. A Virginia man convicted by a jury of attempting to traffic a minor was sentenced today to 10 years in prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. A federal jury convicted Mark Samuel Baker, 57, of Gore, Virginia, of attempted sex trafficking of a minor, as charged in an indictment in September of 2023, following a 2-day trial in Missoula.
It's a bit of a bait and switch case.
It says that he knowingly attempted to recruit or solicit a minor to engage in commercial sex.
No, he thought she was like 42.
Yeah,
that came later.
We'll get to that. So, he asked for a new trial. It was rejected. They offered him a plea deal, and he turned it down because all the evidence was manufactured by the government. Okay, so let's talk about these vocabulary words. There's RTC, which is the real-time clock, and that's, you explained to me, was like on the circuit, the time the circuit board keeps.
Relative to the circuit board and the battery.
And then you have an operating system time, which you could...
Then you got the date and time set, or in Windows, the Windows operating system, your date and time settings. You can manually change.
Okay, there's a public and private encryption key, and we'll show people what those are. There's security tokens that you get back from the
security token. Could be like if you and I establish communication to send out iMessages between each other. Okay. Then we each have a token that will carry on without having to re-authenticate for that session. So it's like a key card.
So does that token, has it already incorporated the global unique identifier, that private key?
That's the GUID, okay? Encompasses everything. The timestamp, multiple timestamps sometimes for, let's say, an iMessage, you could have sent, received time, created time, 3 in nanoseconds. Extremely difficult to replicate that, plus the MAC address, plus session ID and certificate, the GUI own certificate relative to another encryption certificate for the file itself, okay, the content.
Okay, so then there's
an attachment.
So then there's a device ID, which might be the serial number or unique device identifier, which could be an IP address, right?
Yeah, it could be an IP address or a MAC address, really.
Okay.
Okay. IP addresses are bound to the MAC address. That's unique to the Ethernet adapter card, the cellular adapter, the device itself.
And so, like, let's say you get a communication from somebody, and it appears to be an instant message from
an IMEI number.
So then you get a bundle ID to make sure that version of the software is a valid version and it hadn't been hacked or whatever.
Bundle ID for communications, yes.
And then you have an application ID, which would identify it as TikTok or Facebook or.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of elements that are authenticated in terms of any session.
And just so as far as
two devices.
And so as far as your methodology goes, these are the things that you're looking for when you go in to make sure that everything jives, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you usually start backwards. You find the errors because the errors tell you everything. I mean, it tells you if it cannot validate a new object being downloaded or passed from device to device, really.
Okay, so let's get into this schematics here. How public encryption works, and that's what we're talking about the sender, and there's a public key, and then it goes through encryption and sends a private key to the receiver.
Yeah, the best way to say, I guess, non-technical way to say it is, I say hello, and I say, let's say I'm sending you an iMessage, and I send you a certificate with a public key, okay? And then,
and that's just some kind of encryption of string of numbers and letters, right?
Handshake occurs over secure channel using the encryption. Okay, and here's my private key. So here's my private key, and to decrypt the message with it, and in all of these, in every certificate, every token, every key. Somewhere there's identifiers related to the device. Could be the IMEI number.
Okay,
of a cell phone. Could be the MAC address of a network card. Okay. And so if it fails, any one of those elements fails, then it's essentially invalid, and you're going to get an error that says impersonating or unknown user, because that's another thing. The user ID. The security identifier for that is all wrapped up in the communication. Okay, so this
GUID thing, did you find a GUID in his device?
Not a valid one, no.
Not a valid one.
In fact, text messages that threw up duplicate GUID, which is impossible. That's why it's global unique identifier. I mean, you have all these, because you have all these factors. You have device identifiers, different certificates. You have hash values of the content. You change one thing about that file, and it's going to have a different hash or an invalid hash. But invalidated outgoing message, reason, unknown device, unknown user.
And it shouldn't be unknown. It should all be this one device.
Yes.
There shouldn't be any.
We already established a session.
Right.
We've already confirmed with our key stores who we are.
All right. So let's move on into this is more of how all this stuff works. But let's get into your forensic analysis of his device.
Okay. So the phone was seized. The phone was seized July 14th, 2022 at approximately 2 a.m. That's Billings, Montana time. He was going to meet who he thought was a 42-year-old or 40-ish, okay? And then he was arrested there.
Okay.
And his iPhone taken. Seized. So we'll say seizure time is 2 a.m. 7/14/2022. As you can see there, okay, that is a UI index log that you see on the bottom under modified, showing 7/12. So that's the date. That's one of the dates before seizure. The narrative says he began speaking with this person he wasn't speaking. He didn't know he was speaking to.
Okay.
It's hard to explain. He thought he was talking to a 42-year-old. Anyway.
Okay. So what about this highlighted portion here? All these invalid things and failure to load and all these root errors.
The very first line, which isn't highlighted, failed to create intermediate certificate. Okay.
Okay.
You do not have communication. If it's me and you, iMessage communication without valid certificates. I mean, you won't communicate because Apple.
It won't let you bring the message into your phone, right?
Locked down to have to use the key store, to have to use valid certificates to communicate.
Okay.
Okay, to establish a session and continue to communicate in a conversation. So the conversation has its own GUID too. So keep that in mind.
So what you're telling me is all this is very obvious.
It's trying to validate the data being transmitted at that time, and it's saying the device is invalid. Device ID, device UDID. Okay, that's different than the IMEI. Both are unique
and
can
invalid.
Only be one device. Yeah, and invalid. And invalid product version. So that's obviously a hacked version of what it really is supposed to be.
And so was he using what kind of an app was he using to communicate with this 42-year-old prostitute he thought he was going to meet?
Just regular iMessage.
Just regular iMessage.
Yeah.
And so all this showed up in the iMessages, even though it was conversations he never received on his end.
The phone, after it was taken, was hot loaded. Okay. The file system was backed up.
Okay.
The file system was then modified using a simulating device, usually a Windows computer.
Okay.
Okay. And then the phone is wiped with the date set back, okay, and restored with that file system images after the new data has been injected.
And that causes a cascade of errors that you're seeing here.
Yes. This is typically during the restore. Now,
okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's during the restore. I mean, it's not always. Sometimes the logs generate theirs during the restore. Sometimes they're generated just from the simulator.
Okay.
Because you see the simulator errors coming right after. I mean, we're talking about, so typically when we're looking at these logs, everything appends line by line going down in most of them.
All right. So let's go to the next slide. So we see invalid IMEI again.
Yeah.
KGET session data. Let's see this next one.
Right.
Impersonate user.
Yeah.
Live video explicit. What am I looking at here?
This is a log file, transaction log. It was created and modified 8/24/2022. 2022. So and it's near the end of pending the log, okay? And it's showing errors, impersonating the user, and receiving outgoing message, timeout. So you're getting an error. You don't when you see percent sign, that's because it's encrypted. I mean, you got to have the other device to see what everything that's going on. But at any rate, you're seeing a session and a connection to the network using applications 6 weeks after seizure. And who does that?
Yeah, there's no way that this could have been him.
They might as well just be using the phone. I mean, basically they are, because they're uninstalling and reinstalling new versions of hacked versions of those applications where the databases are wide open, no lockdown from a security standpoint. And, I mean, the amount of changes to the file system after seizure is insane.
All right. So the next one. This trace log indicates that this particular message with GUID whatever to cell phone number whatever sent on 7/12/22 was actually sent Tuesday, July 19th, 2022, which is 5 days after seizure.
Okay. All right. So this trace log, you see its last modified date, trace v3 file. Okay. It would work just like adding to a text file.
Okay.
Line by line, chronologically, every process that runs. It doesn't get all of it. What it's missing is anything coming back encrypted. So you're seeing what plain text is coming in this trace log. And you can see one of the log entries, which references a GUID, okay, of an object. It's dated July 19th. That's 5 days after seizure. And see, that's a real-time clock time, okay? So as you look to the left, you're seeing what's logged the operating system date and time, okay?
Okay.
I mean, you can test this yourself. If you got a zip file on a thumb drive, okay, set your clock back on your Windows computer to a month ago, copy the zip file to your hard drive, and now the zip file has the last modified date or whatever, that 2 months ago or whatever you set it to. Extract the content. So let's say you got 10 images. You extract those 10 images.
All looks
on
like
the
it was
hard
done.
drive while your operating system set to 2 months ago.
Yep.
So you have new creation dates, metadata showing the wrong date. Very easy to do.
Okay, so let's go to the next one, and then I have the $64,000 question. So what am I looking at here?
Okay.
It says inject, packet, block, invoke.
Yes, you're
So
gonna
they're
see,
injecting.
That's a method of hacking or its element of malware is SQL injections. That's SQL database injections.
Okay.
So, every app has its own database pretty much. And, like iMessage uses SMS SQLite or SMS.db. Well, SQL injections injecting new rows. Could be fake rows. Could be a new row in the outgoing text message table.
Okay, so
typically when you see inject, it's meaning injecting new data into a database. Which shouldn't happen 5 days. Or what is that? Yeah, the camera's on the way. Sorry.
that's all right.
Yeah. Well, that's a little less than a month after seizure. That's a real-time clock time in the middle.
Okay.
8/13/2022. Remember, they took the phone away 7/14/2022 at 2 a.m.
So why should any of this be on the phone?
Well, it's not his phone anymore because they've been using it.
Agreed.
It's him.
Okay, unable to verify first certificate.
Yep.
So
More errors relative. This is scrolling down the same trace v3 log or same in this case you got index log.
all right.
Really, if you printed out one of these logs, it'd be like 10,000 pages. But it's all chronological and
Okay, so I see up here boat trader has not been released yet. And then it says fake library, fake message.
Oh, yeah, there's
Fake incoming message. I mean, it literally says fake.
There's a boat trader.
All I can see on my end is the vocabulary word sheet.
There's a boat trader ad all over the place for a boat that hadn't been developed yet. It wasn't announced till like 9 months after. Like, I'm talking about announced. So think about that.
Only
Why is that on that phone? I mean, it's January 2023.
Okay, so you know this is going on the internet, and you know there's a bunch of nerds out there that are going to noodle all this stuff. I hope.
Right.
So my question, and maybe the journalist wants to chime in here. Why is it that when they're caught and you present this evidence to the law enforcement folks out there, why didn't they just throw their hands up and go, "Yeah, we're busted"? Or why wasn't there an evidentiary hearing?
They don't let me get that far, usually. I mean, too many, when they know it's me, they say they're going to arrest me if I show up to even look at the device. Okay? They're going to arrest me, and they pick a case. It's different cases. They could just pick one and say, yeah, you took CP off the premises, which I didn't, because they checked it to ensure I didn't.
Okay.
When I came in and examined it.
Okay. So we have a situation where and here's and this is what I want to show everybody, because you weren't allowed to testify and this evidence wasn't presented to the court. Mark Samuel Baker was found guilty of attempted to sex traffic a minor.
Yeah. That's when I was being threatened.
Yeah. So anyway, just so you know, there's real people out there really trying to do the right thing, and they really are being harassed by the FBI.
Yeah, they're not. It's not a fair playing field for you guys. I can tell you that.
For lawyers?
Nah,
shit, I could have told you that, brother.
It's rigged.
All right, Brandon. Time to do some rapid fire. Aerospace company progressively rationalizing hundreds of jobs out of Mobile. VT May Aerospace is shutting down operations at Brickley Field and moving everything to Pensacola and elsewhere. Is that your understanding of things?
Yeah, pretty much my understanding is by the middle of this month, there will be 0 jobs at VT Aerospace, which is operated under various names for decades in Mobile. And I think as recently as like 2021 had 1,300 jobs that were here. They're going to 0. Part of the problem is they lost a contract with United Airlines. They lost a contract with American Airlines. And part of the problem is they wanted to have their hangars upgraded at taxpayer expense. And apparently state of Alabama was building an aluminum plant in Baldwin County, or, subject, and VT Aerospace, didn't make that list. So Pensacola agreed to expand the facility in Pensacola. So now all the jobs are going to Pensacola or San Antonio or just disappearing.
And I guess they were outside of their incentive package repayment obligation because they.
Yeah, one problem with all these, allowing every state government or county government to offer these goofy incentive packages is, hey, it's great when your state and your county wins one of these deals where, hey, we're getting, 500 jobs, to our town. In this case, Pensacola did a better job of recruiting than Alabama and Mobile did, and these jobs are gone. My understanding, they're not coming back.
Well, you win some, you lose some. So, Bama Carey last week filed a lawsuit against the city of Selma for violating the gun rights of one of their owners, a gentleman named David Blackman. and I'm the attorney of record on that case. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. So under current law in Alabama, you can't carry a weapon into a municipal building where a meeting is ongoing. Okay, and you can't bring a gun into a sheriff's department. You can't bring a gun into a courthouse where there's a court proceeding ongoing. There's certain time, place, and time and place restrictions that are allowed under Alabama law and federal law, but you can't go out here and say, hey, we're going to have a street party and we're shutting down Highway 59 down here, and oh yeah, by the way, this public thoroughfare is now a gun-free zone because the mayor thinks it should be. That's not how any of this works. So we filed a little declaratory judgment action so the court would be sure to tell the city of Selma that they can't do this, nor can any other municipality in the state. So trying to protect your gun rights. So anyway, another little story I thought I would share, that Abby McCullough, a University of Georgia senior, who happens to be my second cousin, was named the SEC scholar athlete, swimming and diving scholar athlete of the year for the Southeastern Conference. Congratulations. So just imagine they're smart people that are kin to me. Belmont University in Nashville.
Hey, we're still seeing the VT Mobile Aerospace on my end.
Well, maybe it'll catch up. Belmont University in Nashville has announced that one of my classmates, Randy Bradley, is going to be the new dean of the Jack Massey College of Business, and I wanted to give him a shout out. Real fine fella. His sister is actually the Department of Archives and History director for Baldwin County Commission. Real fine bunch of people, I tell you.
Congratulations.
So I thought you would love this one. So they had a planning commission meeting the other night, and they were weighing in on the new 377 lot subdivision. And one of the people, Ricky Strickland, stood up and said, "Hey, maybe we need a Department of Government Efficiency here in Baldwin County."
Everybody needs one.
And you could have heard a pin drop. Yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good timing there. So Brandon, what else you got on your radar? What's coming up? We got about a third of the legislative days are gone. What do we have, 30? Something like that?
Well, there's 30 and 13 are done, so we're getting awfully close to the halfway point.
And
we still haven't seen the budgets from either budget committee.
And I hate to keep going back to the State of the Union address, but there's no way that you can cut all of this stuff at the federal level and think that there aren't going to be repercussions in state and local budgets. So whatever these guys are up to in Montgomery right now, I have a feeling that the governor is going to be calling everybody back for a special session this summer to deal with budget shortfalls. I mean, just...
Yeah, but, kind of the problem they have in budgeting is... the House has passed a budget deal to get us to the end of the fiscal year, and the Senate has passed their own different little deal, and DOJ is running around, ordering different kinds of cuts. From the legislature's standpoint, all of that is in the current fiscal year. When we do our budgets, we do it for a fiscal year, of October 1 to October 1. The federal government used to do it that way, but for a decade now, we've been doing continuous resolutions for like 45 days or 90 days or whatever. So they're working on a continuing resolution for the end of the current year, which is September 30th. I mean, Alabama did our budgets, literally 11 months ago for that time period. We're working on 2026's budget, which starts October 1. The federal government, the Congress, hasn't finished the current year's budget. So in the state legislature's defense, the federal government, Congress isn't even working on their 2026 budget, which, again, the governor's already presented her budgets and, it's in committee. So whatever the federal budget looks like, nobody knows what the 2026 federal budget's going to look like. And, we're going to do the state budgets here, in the next 4 weeks. It's a pure guess as to what kind of money, because, I don't know if the public understands this. We have a $9.9 billion education budget. We've got a $3.7 billion general fund budget. There's another $2-3 billion, most of it in roads, that's off the books in its own deals. And then we turn around and get $13 or $14 billion in federal matching dollars. What we're talking about here is nobody knows how much of our federal matching dollars we're going to get in the 2026 budget or not, because 2025 is not even done on the congressional level.
Well, so, you think Maxine Waters is standing at the door of the education department throwing temper tantrums?
I'll assure you there will be.
I love this because, I would like to see a video of when they announced this as an idea, because the word Doge, big eyes, you can tell who the thieves are right away. If you look at the room, big eyeballs,
What? We're going to look into who's actually getting this money?
I don't like that word.
We're going to audit. Well, the biggest one to me is just audit the Pentagon once every 20 freaking years.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you would have thought when the Pentagon failed an audit, about 2,000 people would have lost their jobs, and some 3-star general would have got booted out.
You've been to the
Pentagon,
no,
they failed an audit. They failed audit the next year. They failed, they fail audit every year, and it's like nothing ever happens to anybody.
It's like auditing a small town. It's like a town. If you've been to the Pentagon, it's like
I got lost in there one time.
It's like a small state, actually. We're talking about state dollars.
It's the largest building under roof in the world, isn't it? Or it was.
It's like
yeah, we do
200,000 people.
Here in the state of Alabama, like I said, our total budget, state, federal, the whole deal, the state spends is about $28 billion. The Pentagon budget's $900 billion. You think of everything the state of Alabama's got going on between every local school and every prison and every road project, Medicaid, the nursing homes.
Veterans.
Yeah, that's all dwarfed by the Pentagon.
And I guess we should right here at the end put the nail in the coffin of the legacy of Governor Ivey. Her plans to reorganize Veterans Affairs has passed, hadn't it, Brandon?
Yes, it passed out of the House yesterday afternoon. 39 representatives voted against it, but the debate lasted less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, and so, enter politics into all that as opposed to them having their own board and some anonymity and control over how veterans' dollars are spent, at the street level, providing services. And because of a little pissing contest she got into with a man doing his job, Admiral Davis, probably one of the very few people that I could say is underemployed working for the state of Alabama, honestly. We ran that good man off, and now we're doing away with his job. Going to make it a cabinet level position.
It will be yet another state agency run by some flunky appointed by the governor. And we have we're how many hundreds of $1 million over budget on building 2 prisons? That was supposed to be $800 million. Last time I heard, that's going to be closer to $2.3 billion, and the second one hasn't even begun work yet.
So I want to tell everybody, I know we're a small state, and we're little people in a small state. But the reason you should care about what happens in Alabama is the same reason you should care about what happens in Vermont. It's because these extremely red or extremely blue states are the nuclear test grounds for bad ideas from either party. Now, fortunately, I'm a Republican in a very Republican state, and most of the things that my legislature wants to do, I'm in favor of. But not when it comes to infringing on people's Second Amendment rights and creating a new class of citizen for anybody with a badge. And so that's why you should care, because it's coming. These bad ideas are coming to your state too. So of course, sometimes it takes people doing things on their own, like Mr. Coker here, who's willing to stand up and say, yeah, these guys are planting evidence and they're putting people in prison and it ought to stop. Yep. Okay, well, I think we've beat this thing to death today, guys. We will be coming back to you every Friday if we can put together enough content, which, given the state of affairs, we ought to have plenty. So anyway, everybody have a good weekend, and we'll see y'all next time.